Welcome to Please Me, the award-winning sexuality podcast bringing you bold conversations and big clit energy. I'm thrilled to announce that Please Me is the #1 ranked sexuality podcast in the USA and worldwide. I'm Eve, your host, on a journey from trauma to sexual liberation. Join me and my guests as we dive into conversations around orgasm equality, self-love, body positivity, and essential sex education. Let's reclaim pleasure and close the orgasm gap, one empowering conversation at a time. Today I'm sharing a webinar called Date Smart, Play Safe, Boundaries That Turn You On. Next week starts Season 7, so mark your calendars. Thank you to everyone who has joined Patreon so far. We are already at Member 7 and the giveaways are just getting started. The 10th subscriber will receive a bottle of Aria Luxury Lubricant. Paid members enjoy ad-free episodes, the full Kink series, exclusive photo sets, and bonus content. The 20th paid member will win a 1-hour coaching session valued at $350, and the 30th member will receive a Please Me Zippo lighter valued at $75. Joining Patreon supports the show and helps me continue creating high-quality, shame-free sexual health content while funding future episodes and projects. 3 chances to win and a great way to support Please Me podcast, so join early and get in on the fun. If you're listening right now and getting value from this show, don't just enjoy me in silence, hit follow on whatever platform you're on. The stats say you're here, but the follow button says you're playing hard to get. Following is the easiest, sexiest way to support this self-funded indie show. It tells the algorithm and me that you want more. And if you love this episode or 3, don't be selfish, share it with a friend who could benefit. Podcasts exist to make our lives better, and supporting your host keeps this one alive and thriving. One more thing, check out my affiliates. Supporting them supports me, and I promise I only partner with things worth your time that I either use myself or recommend to my clients. Want to ask a question for the Please Me podcast? Join the conversation on Patreon or subscribe to my Substack newsletter for exclusive content, behind-the-scenes updates, and a chance to have your questions featured on the show. Please Me is for mature audiences, so sit back, relax, and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me. Ladies, whether you are just starting your menopause journey or well into it and have questions about hormone replacement therapy, you're not alone. Many women experience vaginal dryness, decreased sensitivity, and urinary incontinence, like leaking when you sneeze, laugh, or exercise. These symptoms can be frustrating and limiting, but they are also very treatable. I experienced this myself and decided to try Parlor Game's topical estrogen and progesterone creams. Within 1 month of consistent use, my incontinence completely resolved. Topical estrogen helps restore tissue health, improve sensitivity, and support bladder control, while topical progesterone supports hormonal balance. If you are ready to stop suffering in silence, check the show notes for the link to Silky Peach, the topical estrogen cream, and Vibrant Third, the topical progesterone cream. I feel relieved and confident again, and I know you can too. I love wearing a bra. Said no one ever. If you're tired of discomfort and want a great bra alternative, I highly recommend Cakes. I gave up bras during COVID and searched everywhere for something better, and Cakes is the best solution I've found. They offer adhesive, non-adhesive, and push-up options that give a seamless look under your clothes without straps or discomfort. If you're tired of racing to your car to pull your bra off at the end of the day, it's time to get your Cakes. I haven't looked back, and I know you won't regret it. Check the show notes for the link. My name is Eve Hall, and I am a licensed physical therapist that treats sexual health conditions. I also have a podcast called Please Me, and Please Me is available to listen to on all networks. You can stream it on Spotify and watch the video version, or YouTube. And it is also available on all other networks like Apple and iHeartRadio, Listen Notes, and Amazon Music, etc. There's about 17 or 18 channels that it's on. So if you haven't done so already, check out Please Me. You can see right here Lexi Silver. She is the SDC coordinator, media coordinator, and she was on my show twice. She's going to be on it again coming up soon. And I love talking about sexy topics like this one today. I consider myself the face of safe sex, and I like to talk about safety so that we can empower ourselves and have the most fun possible. So I'm going to get started. If you want to pop in any questions into the chat, I will be answering them at the end. So feel free to ask any questions that you have as we go along. And I also want to mention that I do treat sexual health conditions such as erectile dysfunction, decreased vaginal sensitivity and dryness, incontinence, painful sex, premature ejaculation. Those are some of the things that I treat in my physical therapy practice. And I am available for in-person treatment and also intimacy coaching that I do virtually. So I can see you from all different places. And if you have a condition like erectile dysfunction or incontinence, and you don't live locally to me, there's a lot that we can do virtually. I have a protocol for every condition. So it's not just the treatment, it's also following the protocol. And those are things that we can certainly discuss over virtual treatment, and you can make progress in those arenas as well. So I just want to put that out there. And thank you for the compliment. And so this particular webinar is part of the Please Me Health Collective. I do a webinar once a month on SDC. And if you've seen them in the past, you'll know that they're very informative and a lot of fun. And I talk for about an hour, and you have the opportunity to ask questions and to participate via the chat. So feel free to do that. I also house all of my webinars on Patreon, which is another site that also has my ad-free podcasts. So if you're interested in listening to the podcast ad-free, that's also available to you as well. So the topic of this particular webinar is called Date Smart, Play Safe, Boundaries That Turn You On. And I know that this can be a conversation that sometimes can be a turnoff, depending on how the person words the conversation. So I want to talk a little bit about safety, about STIs, and then about having these conversations so that we can, empower ourselves and get turned on and not off. So let's talk about our mouths. Most people know that wearing a condom is going to protect you from STIs with penetrative sex. But a lot of people don't know that your mouth can also carry a lot of STIs. So we're going to talk about that. Some of the STIs that can live in your mouth are herpes. And there's two types of herpes. There's HSV1 and HSV2. And a lot of times they are considered two separate types of herpes. One of them is considered an oral herpes, and the other one is considered genital herpes. But the truth is, both of them are sexually transmitted infections. You can have one or two orally or one or two genitally. So both are risky. Gonorrhea can also live in your throat. And oftentimes, gonorrhea is something that is not detectable because it doesn't cause a lot of symptoms. So you may be asymptomatic if you have gonorrhea in your throat. If you have it more genitally, it can cause more painful discomfort. But orally, oftentimes, it's not detectable. So that can be transmitted with oral sex as well. Chlamydia as well it can be in your throat. It's more rare, but it can be kept in your throat. So chlamydia is something that can be transmitted with oral sex. Syphilis causes oral sores, and it's very infectious and can be transmitted with oral sex. HPV is linked to oral cancers, so it's not just linked to uterine cancer. It also can be linked to oral cancers as well, throat cancers, etc. And then hepatitis A and B is also something that can be contracted via oral sex. So just because it's oral, it doesn't mean that it's risk-free. So if you are having sex with somebody new and you are wearing a condom with penetrative sex, but then doing oral without any protection, you are missing a big part of the protection package there. So you need to really think about all of it. And then there are some STIs that can actually be life-threatening. And so we're going to talk about those. And everybody knows HIV, right? And AIDS. That is one that can be life-threatening if not treated. Luckily, there's been a lot of research on HIV, and we have now a medication that you can take called PrEP. And PrEP is an amazing medication because it can really reduce your risk of contracting HIV. So PrEP is something that you have to get tested for first. And so it's a process to get it, but you can certainly get PrEP to protect you from HIV. And then there's HPV, which can cause, like I mentioned, cervical cancer, and it can also cause anal cancer, and it can also cause oral cancers. So there is treatment for, or there's not treatment for it, but there are vaccines for this. So you can seek those vaccines. And unfortunately, they're not typically given to people unless you are a teenager, right? And I think they just raised the age to, I can't remember if it was like 35, 40, something like that, where you can receive these vaccines. But really, if you are having sex at any age, if you're in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, and you request these vaccines to be given to you, you can get them if you are having sex and with multiple partners, because you really don't know, whether the other person has these diseases. And a lot of times these diseases, again, are undetectable and symptom-free, but the person may carry them anyway. So you want to protect yourself. And really what we're talking about is safer sex. The only safe sex is no sex at all. And that's no fun, right? So we all want to have fun and play safe. Hepatitis B and C can cause liver damage. And so it's very, very important to think about all of the different types of sexually transmitted infections that we can contract. It's not just, a few, it's actually multiple. And then there are some STIs that aren't tested for at all in men that, depending on where you live in the world, and I won't say that, but in the US, I'm going to say things like mycoplasma, ureaplasma, they're often not tested for in men on a regular basis when you go for testing. So if you're a carrier of those things, you can pass those things on without even knowing you have them. And again, a lot of times they're asymptomatic when you have them. So like I mentioned, I'm the face of safe sex. And so I love talking about safety. And so I want to just reiterate that confidence is sexy. And it's rooted in self-respect and knowledge. It's not limiting. Safe sex is not limiting. It's a filter for worthiness. And I'm not talking about killing the mood. I'm talking about turning up the quality. That is really important. And we all want to have quality sex. So this is so important. So what we want to do is we want to reframe our boundaries as sexy boundaries. And so we're going to play a little game in a few minutes. But communication can be hot, it can be clear, and it leaves everyone feeling turned on and not shut down. And boundaries matter because they are tools for connection and not for rejection. So what we don't want to do is say things like, I don't blah, blah, blah. So for instance, I don't fluid swap. And instead we can say, I love kisses all over, except for my mouth and my genitals. That's how I stay feeling amazing. Another example would be, I don't have sex without condoms. That would be something that may be like a turn off, right? But you can say, I only get wild when I'm wrapped, when we're wrapped, I should say, and safer sex is my biggest turn on. You can say, instead of saying, I don't do oral unless you're tested, I can say, you can say, I'm into lips, not risks. So show me that clean bill and I'll show you some magic. So there are definitely ways to rephrase the conversation so that it can stay sexy, but safe. And so I want you to think about that as you are interacting with people, because really when you are talking about safe sex, we're talking about really focusing on not just our confidence, but on our sexy boundaries and making sure that you are feeling the safest that you can so that you can really enjoy the whole experience from beginning to end. And when there are boundaries set, you don't have to worry that the other person is going to do something that you're not comfortable with, because you know that you're setting those boundaries ahead of time. And if the person is agreeable, then you can move forward with and be comfortable in the situation. So I am going to encourage you to practice these things, and we're going to practice together now. So again, clarity is very hot, confidence is very sexy, and consent is a turn on. Let's talk about the game that I want to play with you guys. So we're going to do green light or red light. Okay, so yes is going to be sexy, and no is going to be not respectful. All right. And so I'm going to say a phrase, and I want you to tell me if that would be a turn on to you or if it would be a turn off. And if it's a turn off, I want you to try and rephrase that in the chat. Okay. So the first one is, I'm into deep eye contact, sensual touch, and condoms every time. Is that a turn on or a turn off? Yes or no? Any thoughts in the chat? Turn on. Yes. Yes, definitely. Definitely a turn on. How about no oral tonight, but I've got other ways to make you moan? Would that be a turn on or a turn off? Yes. No? Okay, some people say, someone said no. Turn on. For me, I love. Okay, no. All right. Because it said no oral tonight, you said, is that why it said no? So I think these are so, it depends on who you are, right? Because I have a bunch of examples, and for me, a lot of them are turn-ons, even though maybe for some other people, they may be turn-offs. So it's very relative, right? But the point is that our words are powerful, and the way that you communicate can really be something that turns people on or something that turns people off. How about safe sex gets me off? Consent turns me on. Respect keeps me coming. Is that a turn on or a turn off? On, yes. I agree. It's a turn on. That's perfect. Communication is a turn on. And if you are not getting a lot of information from your partner, how are you going to really know if they're truly understanding or enjoying the situation, right? So, cueing people with words, or, being very clear about what you like and don't like is so key. Excuse me. Yes. So how about we can role play, we can explore kinks, and keep it safer every step of the way? Is that a turn on or a turn off? On. Turn on. Can anybody think of something that you would say that would be like a turn off? How about, oh no, I don't do sex without condoms. No way. Is that a turn on or a turn off? Yes, definitely wordy. And, it depends on the person. Some people are chatty and some people, like to keep it simple. But definitely thinking about the words that you use when you're communicating with somebody. So, yes, that last one was a turn off, right? Because also I was kind of grossed out about it, right? And so when you're grossed out about something, it's not a turn on. How about um, how about you can lick me? Um, you can lick me. You can do rimming, but only with protection. Without protection is gross. How about that? Yes. If you approach it negatively, definitely a turn off. But if you approach it positively, like, look what I have. I have a boundary that you can use to do oral anally, and I would love how that feels. Then it could be a turn on, right? So you don't want to say something's gross, right? I mean, some people like gross things, right? And that's okay. Everybody has their limits. But if you're having sex with somebody that is your partner that is monogamous, that's a whole different story, right? And you are only having unprotected sex with that one person. But we are in the ethically non-monogamous community. Swingers have sex um, with strangers on a regular basis. And so these conversations are a must when you are having, multiple partners. So, of course, there's going to be limits to what you can do with one community versus your partner that you are having sex with on a regular basis. That's just, that you've had the conversation with, that you can have unprotected sex with, and that's a different story. But I'm talking about outside of that relationship, having sex with other partners. This is when we want to have these very direct conversations so that we can stay safe. So how about no penetration today, but I've got toys and 10 fingers full of fun. Turn on or turn off? On. Yeah. So, sometimes penetration is not on the table for one reason or another, right? So, for instance, if you're just saying no, right, that can be a turn off. But, you have to respect a no, because a no is a no. And so if you're saying, no penetration today, I understand that can be worded even better, right? You can say, today penetration is off the table. However, we can use fingers and lots of toys. So, there are ways to rephrase things, right? So no can be a turnoff. You're absolutely right. For some people, that phrase might be a turnoff. For some people, it might be a turn on. Again, it's very subjective, but thinking about the way that you can say things that's going to be a turn on. And, there are times when penetration is not going to be on the table. Some people don't like penetration at all. So it's really going to depend on the person that you are playing with. Some people just may want you to stimulate them in a different way. And so really being clear about what you want and don't want is so important. Yeah. So this is a webinar. It's not my podcast. So on my podcast, I typically interview people. I also sometimes will do just a talk about a specific topic. And so it's just listening. The webinars are more fun because they're fun because they're interactive. And so today we are doing a really interactive one. So I'm excited that you guys are participating. This is really great. How about I need to see your results. Otherwise, we're not moving forward with any unprotected sex. Would that be a turn on or a turn off? I agree. Because you're saying, show me your results, or you ain't getting any, right? And really, when you are in a party or in a club, you're not carrying around your results. And also, not only that, but unless you just got results yesterday, tested yesterday and have your results from yesterday, they may not be current enough. And so you might have had, results 3 months ago, and in those 3 months you've had sex with multiple different partners, and so they may not be current. So I'm not saying not to get tested. I think testing is so important, and it's very relevant. You have to get tested on a regular, especially in this community. And my suggestion is every 3 months. So I think it's really important to do that for yourself so that you know that you are staying safe and healthy. However, like I mentioned before, there are many STIs that are not tested for. So you have to really be proactive about asking for those if you feel like you are at risk in any way, or asking for them to make sure that you're healthy as well. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. That sounds like something that a kid would say, right? In my opinion. But I think it's a funny thing to say. And I would say that that's a turn off, because it's not just about showing, it's about being present to, a little bit more specific conversation about what you will and won't. So, just a little show here and there it could be, it could be a turn on for some people, but that would be something that wouldn't turn me on in particular, because it's not really creating a boundary. It's just saying, let's just look at each other, right? And, looking is the beginning, but then the touching comes next. And unless you're creating the boundaries, then you are not going to be protecting yourself. So how about, ew, no spit, don't spit on me, wear a condom, please. Do you think that's a turn on or a turn off? Oh, and in regards to the results, yes, absolutely. So, sharing results is key. And if you're going to plan ahead to meet somebody and it's not like on the spot type of meeting, you can certainly share results. And I think that that's a good idea. But paying attention when you do get those results to how long ago those results were. And if they were, more than 3 months ago or even less than 3 months ago, asking how many other partners have you had, or you don't even need to know the body count because that's irrelevant. Just asking, have you had any other partners since these results? And did you, was it safe sex? Was it safer sex, or did you, have any risky behavior? I think it's good to ask these questions, especially if you're planning ahead. So I agree, that's a turn off, right? How could we rephrase it so that it would be a turn on? Any ideas? So you could say, let's trade test results before we trade spit. Would that be a turn on or a turn off to you? Or how about, I only share my body with people who bring me peace and paperwork? Yes, I agree. Good communication is always a turn on. I agree 100%. It leads to trust, which is always a turn on. And absolutely, trust is so important. And really, when you're talking about kinks, right, and you're trying something different that you haven't tried before, or you're talking about things like maybe bondage, right, where you're tying somebody up or you're, pinning somebody down, all of those things, even pulling somebody's hair or choking, right? All of these things can be a huge turn on, but for some people, they're an absolute no. So before you, grab somebody's hair and pull it, you need to ask, is it okay for me to lightly pull your hair? Consent is key throughout the whole thing. And if you're with a new partner, you need to have these conversations. And it doesn't have to be ahead of time. It can be during the act too. If you want to do something like, do you like choking? Instead of just doing it and then them, yanking your hand off and saying no. That could be a turn off. Yes. And I agree. It's fun. It's funny. It's great to be funny in the bedroom and to be silly and to be playful. And, I always say that the bedroom is an adult's playground. And so we should be thinking about sex as being a playful experience. Doesn't have to be silly. It doesn't have to be serious. It can be silly. It can be fun. It can be lighthearted. There should be a lot of laughter. Sometimes there are awkward moments and you can giggle about them. So all of that is so important to incorporate. We want to have a great time, and it doesn't always have to be so serious, right? So definitely, I agree. Yes. Love it. Love it. Communication and feeling safe is always a huge turn on for us. I'm reading some of the comments here. We love it, and it initiates foreplay. I agree. And it can be a way to have a sexy banter when you are flirting with somebody, right? So absolutely, bringing those things up during that flirtation phase and creating some boundaries around how you want to play is key. Yeah, and so somebody brings up the point about why most couples have single males blocked, and there's ways for single males to communicate in a healthy way, and in a safe way and a respectful way. And I think respect is so important in the lifestyle. Sometimes the things that turn us off are things like, for instance, sending someone a dick pic without asking for consent. A lot of times people don't need to see that yet. They're not ready for that yet. And so when you lead with something that can be perceived as inappropriate, then, it can be a turnoff. That's something that I hate, honestly. And when too much information is given when I haven't requested it, it almost feels like you got flashed, like, and you weren't expecting it in public. It's something that is not, you don't want to happen. So definitely asking for consent, even in those early phases of communication. And so, yeah, for single men that are listening out there, and I think that for me, like, I personally, that's something that I, encourage is for people to sort of look outside of just couples and experience single men as well, because they can be wonderful. But also, understanding that, they need to learn how to communicate in a respectful way is so, so important. So I love that that's brought up, because they sometimes get a really bad rap in the lifestyle. And I think it's not fair. But I do understand that sometimes they come on too strong, and they offer too much information too soon. And so thinking about that and being really respectful is very important. A good way to tell your wife that you want to watch her with multiple men. Okay, does anyone have an idea? Yes. So even conversations can be a turn on, even if it doesn't move to any next steps. But practicing communication is something that's so important. And I think the kink world does it very well, because they are talking about their hard limits, soft limits, yeses and nos, before they ever lay it down. So I think that is something that we can all really learn from, and we can all take and use ourselves. So yes. So sometimes it's overwhelming because there are a lot of single men that are trying to connect. Yeah, so that's true. That's true. But I also think it's important for us to communicate, our yeses and nos. So, it's okay. It's okay to be rejected, right? In the lifestyle, you're not going to connect with every person, and taking that rejection respectfully, and giving that rejection respectfully. So if we say something like, don't contact us, didn't you see in our profile that no single men are welcome? Would that be respectful or disrespectful? So you can say something like, it's disrespectful, right? It's not nice to be rude ever. You can say something like, hey, thanks for reaching out, but we're not entertaining single men at the moment. But you can say, if we are, we'll reach out to you. Would that be respectful or disrespectful? So yeah, that would be respectful, absolutely. And so going back to the person that wants to see his wife with multiple partners, have you ever asked her if that would be something that she would be into? So instead of saying, I want to see you effed by 5 people, that would really be a turn on to me. Would that be something that would be respectful or disrespectful? So I'm pretty sure that you can turn off the ability for single men to contact you on your profile. I'm not exactly sure how to do that, but I think that is something that you can do on SDC. So reach out to the what is it called? The help desk. And they can help you to figure out how to block the single men, if that's something that you're absolutely not interested in being contacted by. Because I do feel like a lot of people complain about single men, and hey, we're all here to have fun, whether we're single or not. Many people that were in relationships in the past, and then they break up, are now single, and that doesn't mean that they don't know how to communicate or be respectful. That's not all single men. So if you're putting all of them in one category, right, that's not fair. So there are ways for you to be able to block single men if that's not something that you're interested in. So I would definitely look into that. But it's important to be able to communicate very clearly. And if it's not something that you want, not everybody's going to read your entire profile, right? They may read the beginning, or they might just see the picture and be curious and click on your profile. So don't expect that every person is going to read your entire profile and know everything that you want and don't want. But you can direct people to your profile and say, hey, did you by chance read my profile? Please do. And then, you can respond. It's always great to have respectful conversation. And when you get rejected, say, hey, thanks for responding. I appreciate your response. It's always great to be respectful. You want to be respected in this community, because this is, oftentimes where we create our friendships. It doesn't always have to be people that we play with, right? It could be just friendships that we have. And so we want to be respectful. Not everybody's going to be a turn on to you. Not everybody's going to be somebody that you want to play with, but they can become great friends. So someone's bringing up porn and watching something in porn that they would want to try, right? So I think that's, it's something that you can certainly share with somebody and say, hey, does this turn you on? Do you like what this looks like? Would this be something that you would be interested in trying? So that could be a way to bring up what the question that we had earlier about the man who wants to have his wife be with multiple partners, and he wants to watch that. So he could show her, a really hot sex porn scene and say, hey, would this be something that might be interesting to you? Would you want to do something like this? Because it would really turn me on to see this. And some people might be open to it and some people might not be. And respecting what they say is so key. Not trying to convince them to do something that they don't want to do. That's a turnoff. Yes. So I agree. So I think that I agree that, it should be respected, whether the person wants to be with single men or not. But if their profile is open and not blocked, right? I think that giving a compliment is great. So just to alert them to the fact that you are out there and you are available and you like them, and that they are, mentioned in their profile that they are not really looking for single men, but if ever they are, you're available. And I think that would be a respectful way to communicate your desire to meet them without being overly rude or aggressive. So compliments are always helpful. So somebody is asking how they can meet more people in the lifestyle, and you are on the best site. SDC.com is the place to meet people in the lifestyle. So there are so many different ways that you can meet people. The chat rooms are a great place. There's also the dating, speed dating, and then just reaching out to people and through their profiles. This is, all the different ways that you can meet people on the site. And if I'm not remembering all of the different ways, certainly, mention it in the comments here, because I don't use the site as much as I used to for meeting people, but I have a different personal profile that I might use for doing that. This profile particularly is for my business. And so this is where I meet people as clients. So if you're interested in working with me in any way, you can reach out to me on this profile. So I'm just going to be reading more comments here. So so then there's also, there's a lot of different clubs that you can go to. They have single male night. I know that Trapeze in Florida. I mean, I don't know where you guys are all from. I live in Florida here, but Trapeze has, single guy night, and then they have couples night. So on the nights that, single males are allowed, then that would be a great time to go to the club. Then there's multiple other clubs. You can look them up, and they're all, on here on the site too. So looking up the parties and the clubs are other ways to meet people as well in person. And then of course the meetups as well. So many different ways to meet people in the lifestyle, and thinking about communication as you are approaching people is so important. If you've ever wished sex could feel more connected, more intense, or honestly just more fun, you need to check out Shameless Care. They're a telemedicine company built entirely around sexual health, real doctors, real prescriptions, and products that actually work. Like Shameless Chemistry, their oxytocin plus tadalafil blend that deepens connection and boosts arousal. Or Shamelessly Aroused, a topical cream with the active ingredient found in men's ED medication, increasing blood flow exactly where it counts. Every order includes a short video introduction from your doctor, transparent pricing, and no subscriptions ever. Just real, sex-positive healthcare that delivers results. Because you're a Please Me listener, you can use coupon code PLEASEME for $15 off your order of any product on the Shameless Care website. Use the code PLEASEME, that's PLEASEME, at checkout to claim your $15 off. Again, that's shamelesscare.com, code PLEASEME. Because great sex shouldn't be complicated. It should be shameless. This episode is sponsored by Shameless Care.
TaxAct's filing software and live tax experts can help small businesses easily knock out their taxes. Actually, our experts can help you find deductions and credits for any sized business. Itty-bitty businesses, medium-sized, really big, mid-sized, small businesses, companies with 0 employees, and mom-and-pop conglomerates. Yep, our tax experts can help all of them. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
I'm not a big porn watcher. I think porn is completely, personal, what you like to watch and don't watch. So, there are lots of different sites that you can go to. There's also woman-led porn or woman-created porn that can be a really big turn on to women, especially, or people that like things that are more gentle and more female focused. So searching that, on the internet, honey, you can find anything on the internet. So searching and looking, and oftentimes those sites you have to pay for. But if that's something that you're interested in, I think that would be a good place to look. Yes. Asking someone about their desires, about their fantasies, right, is a great place to start. I think it's a great place to start with, with the flirtation and conversation. And it's always a turn on to hear other people's fantasies. And even if it's something that you might not be interested in, the way that they explain it can really be a turn on. So absolutely asking somebody about their fantasies is a great place to start. Okay, so this is a great example of how, this one couple, DNGS, how they were, the wife was able to be open to even being in the lifestyle because, he talked about her desires and her fantasies. And so that's a great place to start for sure. And, a lot of times people want to experience things outside the box in terms of sexuality, but they're too shy to say what those things are. And so it's important to talk about our kinks and our fetishes and our fantasies with our partners, because a lot of times what happens is when you're in a, quote unquote monogamous relationship and you're not getting those needs met, and you really have this fetish or kink that you really love, a lot of times people will move outside of the relationship and find a sex worker or something like that to meet those fantasies because they're too afraid to have these conversations with their partner. And I think that's sad, because I think a lot of times people want to have outside of the box fun, and they just are not too shy to say, or too afraid to say that, or they're afraid of rejection, etc. So overcoming that fear, and really rephrasing things in a way that can be a turn on is so important. What's Make Love Not Porn? Is that a porn site? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is, but let me know. So there's a personal question on here that I'm not going to answer because I do talk a lot about myself on my show, but it's not a question that I feel comfortable answering right now. So thank you for the question, but I won't be talking about how I got into the lifestyle today. Okay, and so again, a respectful response to a question that made me feel uncomfortable. And so how do you have these conversations? It's so important to really be able to express yourself in a way that you feel comfortable with. And overcoming those fears about communication is really what my show is all about. I love to talk about communication as a way to really empower, and it can be a turn off. A turn on doesn't have to be a turn off. So I just want to open the floor to some Q&A. If anybody has any questions about what we talked about today, and I want to make sure that you guys stay connected to me. So again, I have the Please Me Health Collective, and I think I have about 997 so far members of the Please Me Health Collective. I'm not constantly sending, messages every day or anything like that. I just post about my show, and I post about any events that I'm having coming up, and I post about my webinars. So if you're interested in joining the Please Me Health Collective, please do so. I am almost at 1,000 members, and I would love to get to that. And of course, it's going to grow even beyond that, but that is my first goal. So be sure to join here, the Please Me Health Collective on SDC.com. Oh, I'm almost there. It is a group on SDC. It's the Please Me Health Collective. And it's where I will share information about these webinars that I do once per month. And so I've done a whole bunch of webinars. I've been doing them for over a year now. And so is anybody on here that has seen any of my other webinars? Let me know if you are, and if you've seen them in the past. So you're going to also get a message from SDC rating this particular webinar. So I would love it if you rated it and gave me a review. Those are also really helpful for me and for people looking at my profile to see, whether you think it was a great webinar or not. So that's really helpful. I appreciate that. I just want to mention too that I am up for multiple awards for my show. Right now, I am up for 2 ASN awards. ASN is a lifestyle magazine, and I also have an article that I write monthly for ASN. It's called Big Clit Energy, a Please Me series. And it's a great article. So if you are interested in joining ASN, it's a free magazine and it has millions of viewers per month. It's an e-magazine. So I can certainly put a link to join the magazine and get a subscription for that. And also, I would love it if you read my article and then vote for me for the ASN Awards. I have 2 categories that I'm in right now. One of them is Best Educator, and the other one is Best Educator Website. So I'll put the links in the chat for this particular group if you'd like to do that. Also, I am up for 3 Latin Podcasting Awards. I am a Latina, and my show, Please Me, is actually a bilingual show. It's in English with Spanish subtitles. So I am up for 3 podcast awards for the Latin Podcasting Awards, and one of them is a fan favorite. And unfortunately, I'm pretty behind in that category, so I would love votes for that. It's just a one-time vote. The ASN Awards are daily votes, so you can vote daily for the ASN Awards, but the Latin Podcast Awards fan favorite is a one-time vote. So I will put the link for that also. in the chat. And I would love for you to vote for me there as well. And then lastly, I'm up for 2 Women in Podcasting Awards right now. One is for Education Podcast and one is for Wellness Podcast. So I'm asking for votes for that as well. And again, I will put the link in the chat for this particular webinar. And so thank you for your support for that. And I would love it if you could vote for me there as well. So any questions? So let me see. I'm going to go back and I'm going to look and see if there are any questions. So I think I covered that. Where can we meet people in the lifestyle? I mean, literally SDC is like the best place, right? I mean, there are other sites, but there's Skirt Club if you're a bisexual woman. That's a place if you're a bisexual woman that you can meet other women that you might be interested in. And then, I can't even think of any others right now. I really think that SDC is the best place to meet people in the lifestyle, and also to find out what else is going on around you in your area. So there may be parties in your area. You can look at the parties. There are clubs. A lot of them, advertise here on SDC. So those are great places to meet other people. And check out my my podcast. My podcast is really great. I actually just did a recent podcast with Dr. Elliot Justin, and he came up with a new technology for men. And it is a cock ring that is that measures your erections. And it's very interesting. That's a really cool, it was 2 weeks ago. It's a really cool episode. And it talks about nocturnal erections and how that can be a guide for your overall health. If you're having 3 or more nocturnal erections, generally your health is going to be pretty good, right? But if you're having less than that, that could be an indicator of heart disease and something that you need to really look into. It could also, if you're having 1 or less, could be an indicator of a heart attack coming in the next couple of years. So this is a tool that I think is really important. And, a lot of times people wear smartwatches and they count their heart rate. They're looking at their heart rate and they're looking at their steps per day. But wouldn't you want to know what your nocturnal erections are to see if you have a safe heart and you're on a strong heart? So I think that is a really cool podcast to listen to. I highly suggest it if you're a man to listen to that, or if you love a man. Okay, so there's a lot of women on here too that have partners that, and it's interesting. He said that 30% of people that buy the smart ring, that's what it's called, are women, because they want to protect their partners. And so it's important to stay healthy and to know all of those vital signs. And this is another vital sign that I think a lot of people don't even think about, but can really be beneficial for us to know about. Wonderful. You're welcome. I'm so glad that you learned something today, and I'm glad that you enjoyed the seminar. And again, I'm still open for a few more questions if anybody has anything else that they want to add. So the podcast itself, I just want to mention, I'm going to talk a little bit about the podcast. It's called Please Me. And again, it's on all the different sites. You can watch it on Spotify or YouTube. And then you can listen to it on all the other platforms. It is in the top 2.5% globally. It is a top 10 podcast in the US and in Europe. And we talk about all sorts of things. I have lots of guests on there. I had Kobe Falks on there. He is a gay content creator. That was a really fun conversation and got a lot of attention. I had Julietta Chiara, which is right here. She is also an educator on SDC. She is a Shibari trained professional, and she teaches rope tying, and she's a lot of fun. She was on my show a couple of times. So there are quite a few people that are from the SDC community that have also been guests on my show. So, there's doctors that come on and talk about hormones and all sorts of things. And so we cover, kinks, fetishes, lingerie, and a whole host of other important conversations. So I invite you to listen to the show. And also, if you have time and can do so, please vote for me for those awards. I would greatly appreciate it. Any other questions? So I just want to recap. So so let's just recap. Your mouth deserves protection, right? And your body deserves respect, and your pleasure deserves boundaries. So your desire is valid, and your boundaries are beautiful, and your safety is sexy. So I want to leave you with some of those thoughts. And again, thank you so much for attending today, for listening today. And I don't see any other questions. So I'm going to say goodbye now, but thank you all for joining me today, this morning. And if you're celebrating Memorial Day, enjoy the Memorial Day today. Until next time. If you're feeling disconnected from your body, struggling with intimacy, or facing a sexual health condition, you're not alone. There is no shame in what you're experiencing, and you don't have to figure it out on your own. But the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to reclaim your confidence, pleasure, and connection. That's why I offer a free 15-minute discovery call to explore what's going on and whether working together is the right next step. Spots fill quickly, so don't wait. The link is in the show notes. Grab your time now.
Are you looking for a sexy date? Look no further than SDC.com. SDC.com is the premier ethically non-monogamous website that is worldwide. It also hosts a wealth of information on sexuality and sexual health, and I host a free live webinar monthly on the site. You can use code 37340 for a free trial membership on me. And be sure to reach out on the site and say hello.
I want to personally invite you to join me on Patreon for ad-free listening, bonus episodes, and early releases. Already there is a lot of bonus content on there with many webinars that I've done in the past and a show that I've never released to the public before. My show is completely self-funded, and when you are able to support me in this way, I'm able to spread my message of body positivity, self-love, and women's empowerment, and empowerment in general around sexuality around the globe. And so with that being said, I appreciate everyone who has already joined Patreon. And if you've thought about joining, now's your nudge to do so.